Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I'm going to talk about what it means to have your moon conjunct with someone's Juno in Synastry or vice versa. Now this video was requested a lot, as with all Juno Synastry, which actually this is my very first video on Juno in Synastry, so this is exciting. I'm excited to talk about this because Juno has proved to be very significant in relationships of all kinds, especially romantic relationships and long-term commitments, marriages. Juno seems to play a pretty big role in that, and even Juno in the composite chart seems to be significant as well, but that's another story. In this video, we're going to talk about Juno conjunct to the moon in Synastry. So with this aspect, this is a very powerful bonding aspect in Synastry. It would definitely be a marriage indicator or a long-term commitment indicator in the relationship, where the Juno person really feels like the moon person is their ideal on a deep emotional level. It seems to be the Juno person really feeling like the moon person, more so than the moon person feeling like the Juno person. That comes later, but right off the bat, it seems like the Juno person really feels connected to the moon person and wants to get close to them because they feel like, they are their ideal as far as a relationship or a committed relationship goes. So Juno really shows how we do committed partnerships of all kinds, what we internally feel like a relationship is, or at least a committed relationship or marriage, like how we commit that kind of energy as far as like our more serious committed relationships. So the Juno person really like sees the moon person as wifey or like husband material with this one. And the moon person can feel like, that they're getting a lot of emotional support or connection or nurturing from the Juno person. And this can go both ways. This definitely goes both ways, the nurturing part of it. But depending on, what the moon person's actual natal Juno is, they don't necessarily feel the same way about the Juno person. So that's what's interesting about Juno contacts is, depending on what our natal Junos are, sometimes you can see someone as your ideal, but they don't see you as their ideal, depending on the synastry. And then, when committed relationships work, it's because we both see the other as our ideal. And like, we could have different Juno signs. We don't have to have compatible Juno signs in any way. It's just that the person that we're with has to sort of fit that description. Otherwise, we won't feel like they are the type of person we want to commit to. So with this aspect, you want to look at, is it going both ways? Then in that case, we both are feeling like we found our ideal. And it doesn't necessarily have to be going both ways, but we both need to be with someone who is that, person for us. So when it's going both ways, though, it's extra powerful. And then if it also shows up in the composite chart, then it's like definitely this marriage soulmate bond. So the other quality about this particular contact is it can show like that you can have a tendency to like mother each other a bit, or want to have children together, or want to be like in the home together, like cooking together. Like that, whenever we have moon synastry, it can sometimes show up like that. And because Juno is kind of like the wife, and then moon is kind of like our emotional self, this contact can show that in all qualities of the moon come up really strongly in this relationship, where sometimes one person can also be kind of like a parental role with this one. Maybe they're like significantly older, or there's just an energy where one person is kind of more parental with this one. So that could also be a danger of this aspect. That could be one of the negatives of this aspect, is that one person feels the need to like take care of the other person. And this could switch too. This doesn't necessarily just have to be the Juno person. It could actually be both people kind of feeling this way, and then they switch sometimes with this aspect. So that's something to look out for. And also, because it is the moon, there is a lot of emotions involved, and it's interesting, like, so you could have this in a more casual relationship or like an affair, but the emotions are pretty highly stirred. Like this relationship is almost better as a committed relationship, because if you're trying to keep this casual, it just, difficulties can arise because of the sentimentality and like emotionality of this aspect. It's quite bonding in an emotional sense. It's not like a superficial relationship. Like both people feel strongly like that they have met their match, but specifically the Juno person. And it's hard to like be neutral about this kind of association. So I have experienced it in relationships that were more casual, and it's kind of like, it's hard to remain casual basically with a relationship like this, because it's such a strong indicator of like a serious relationship, a marriage, a committed relationship, that yeah, it's just hard to be casual with it. Not that you can't try, but what I've noticed is that these type of contacts, sometimes when Juno is really strongly activated in the synastry and the composite chart, it's really hard to just be friends, or like just be hooking up, or friends with benefits, whatever. Like this isn't like a friends with benefits aspect. This is like a more marriage soulmate indicator. So that's where it could get tricky. And also, sometimes the moon person could not like the feeling of being mothered, or not like the feeling of, like, it could feel kind of sticky. Like it can get to this way where, one person in this bond is the more emotional one. It doesn't necessarily have to be the moon, but it could be the moon. It could be the Juno person too, where like one person is turned off by how emotional the other person is. Like this sometimes with Juno and synastry, we can see conflicts arise because one person wants to be committed and maybe the other person isn't at that place yet, and yet there's this powerful committed energy coming through. But if it's not the right timing for one person, there can be hurt feelings, or one person can feel like the other person is just too serious, or too wanting to make it something that maybe they're not ready for it to be yet. So it's very complex when we see Juno in synastry. This one definitely shows a very emotionally connected relationship where we do feel like we've found someone that meets our ideal, and that can be a really, really good thing. But you want to look at the rest of the synastry, because this is the kind of aspect that could have people getting into a relationship when maybe they're not actually compatible. It's just the powerful bonding that this aspect creates makes them feel like they're meant to be.